I was very surprised to see a bunch of people saw that Bernie Sanders video, and there was a lot of comments, a lot of pro Bernie Sanders and a couple of guys negative Bernie Sanders. So this is an answer question type of thing. So if you guys want to talk about Bernie Sanders, let's talk about Bernie Sanders. So one guy made a comment, and I appreciate your comment, and I'm sure it comes from a good place. So the comment was, you don't think that free high-quality education would increase the wealth or the earning power of the country? ? So there was a couple of positive thumbs up. So I'm assuming that is a sarcastic statement because it's got the question mark, because Bernie Sanders has introduced that he's going to make higher education free, right? So let's actually hear Bernie Sanders and his plan. So we're going to play the clip.
To get a college education. And today I just introduced legislation that would make public colleges and universities tuition free.
Where's the money going to come from?
A tax on Wall Street speculation. And that's exactly where it should come
from. Talk about that. What does that mean, a tax on Wall Street speculation?
What it means is right now you have people who are becoming phenomenally wealthy by speculating in derivatives and every other type of esoteric instrument that they can. People are getting very rich on Wall Street. What we're going to impose is what exists in dozens of countries around the world, a very modest tax on the transference of large amounts of stock.
What does that mean, very modest? Is that going to pay for tuition-free education?
More than that. This is a very effective and progressive way to raise money. The estimate is it could bring in as much as $300 billion a year.
You think Republicans?
And there's the man himself. So around $300 billion is what he's going to raise by having a modest tax on Wall Street, almost insignificant tax. So the thing he says, a lot of people getting rich. There's a lot of people's 401ks over there. But let's take a look at this part. So $300 billion. Here is a graph or a chart from Wikipedia. This is the GDPs of countries. So this is what they make. If you could give a salary amount or a total of what a country could make, here you go. So who makes $300 billion? Well, Greece, the Czech Republic, Norway, Ukraine, 370, and you get a little higher, but it's still somewhat in the relative area, right? So what Bernie Sanders is saying is that I can tax the equivalent of a whole country's GDP and just spend it for free education, which then now you understand why the debt is so high. In fact, hey, let's take a look at the debt. So as of today, or somewhere today, $18 trillion is what we owe other countries. We bring in around 4. Our GDP, I think, is around 4. Could be more. But this is what we owe other countries, right? So I guess we're not actually pulling the money out of our own pocket. We're going to tax somebody and take that money and move it over. But is anything really free when they say free? So it's not free. It's going to be taken from someone else. And you would hope that that person in turn just doesn't raise his price for what he does, which is what happens quite a bit. Hostess Cupcakes went out of business, if you can remember, because the Bakers Union wanted a higher salary, and they were positive that Hostess had that higher salary that they could pay them. So what happened? Hostess closed their doors and sold off the company. They didn't have the money, but the union, they were damn sure that they had that money. And now comes the time where I'm going to play a couple of clips of a Democrat president and a Republican president, just to keep this on level on both sides. So keep in mind what these two gentlemen had to say in their time.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
And of course, Ronald Reagan at that time knew as well that when the government gets involved, they do things for a different motivation. It's not as simple as someone just paying for service. The government wants to put in place a situation that's best for the politicians, right? And so a lot of the times, almost all the time, what is best for the politician or the government is not best for the people. So to continue this discussion, you know what? You might be shocked. If you go to, there's lots of websites in lots of states that have what the employees of these schools make. And so here's a nice one I just pulled up. And so it's easy to see. And in fact, if you look at it, so the over there in Nevada, the University of Reno, so what is that, professor? So there's a professor. He teaches surgery, it looks like. He's a surgery professor. So he makes $1.2 million. Then there's a associate professor, which makes $1 million, and another professor that makes almost $1 million. A head coach makes $1 million, and another head coach makes $1 million. And let's just keep going down the list. Another professor, $600,000, $640,000, and these are the top people being paid at that university. And it keeps going. At that bottom of the page, it's $500,000 for another professor, and I blurred out the names because it's. I'm not here to embarrass anybody. But this is just one of like 50 pages, right? And I think there's more than 50 pages. So it is very, very expensive to run universities. And the government does it, if you don't think it does. It collects tuition, and it gets money from the government, right? So it's a combination of both. You're paying the government for the schools and also the high schools and all the rest. And so this leads us to believe that we're spending a lot. Well, how much are we spending? Or you might believe the other thing, which is that, we don't spend enough. But let's take a look. So here's a pie chart from the U.S. governmentspending.com. And this is what for the coming year, 2016. So defense spending is 13%. Education is 14%. We spend 1% more than we do on defense. But you know what, or at least we're going to. And you know what's striking, though? If you look at pensions, it's 20%, and healthcare is 22%. 2 and 2, that's 42%. That is 4 times what we spend on either defense or education. And what about the local level? So here's just an average chart from a local level. So on a local level, 20% is education. And again, here's the pensions and the healthcare. Healthcare in states alone, you up to 37%, and the pension 16%. So it kind of confirms what I said before. The services that government gives you is at a premium price, or if not an exorbitant price, because they pay real salaries. They pay big salaries backed with big health care, packed with big pensions and everything else. And, since we got this, so what's the infrastructure? Let's see, where is that? Infrastructure, defense, welfare, transportation, 7%. So that's the infrastructure they always talk about, I guess. Anyway, next chart, please. Now it gets to where I'm just going to throw out a theory right now of why Bernie Sanders also may have another reason why, besides kind of getting votes. He's essentially kind of buying the vote. He says, I'll give you this for free if you vote for me. But there's another reason, I think, and this might be a positive push for Democrats. And it's right there. I just put up the chart, which is political spending by unions far exceeds direct donations. So there's 2 different teacher unions besides the local teachers unions, and they donate like nobody's business. In fact, let's take a look. So here's total Pennsylvania government union PAC spending. And you can see Pennsylvania Teachers Association there at the top. So I guess total between a couple of years was $3 million. And if you go down the list, these are all the employees and some teachers unions along with the rest of them, but $3 million. So this is just Pennsylvania. So if it's it looks like $4 million a couple of years. So if you got 50 states and they're all doing that for Democrats, because it is, they're the state sponsors. You're not going to vote for a conservative, Republican, Libertarian, or something like this that kind of wants to bring down, have less money to education. So you put all those states together with that kind of number. That's a lot of money. What were we were told? It's like $1 billion to run for president, right? And so these guys can easily come up with $300 million pretty fast, right? So the teachers unions are sponsoring a big chunk of any presidential campaign. So now it brings me back to my question, and I'm sure he's sincere about it. Sure, he's sincere in his heart, believing that if we can get everyone a free education, things would get better. We'd have everyone would be more educated. We'd get more people in Silicon Valley and everything. And I'm certain he's sincere about it, because most people are, especially a lot of Democrats. I think they get a bad rap on a lower level. The politicians are something else, but I think they genuinely want to help. The thing is that here are the key words: free. It's not free. You're just moving the money from someplace else, and you're moving it at a premium too, government. So quality education, free quality education, well, don't know if it's going to be quality. We see when government runs things, their quality is not too good. There's nothing worse than the high schools in poor places, poor cities. And the earning power of the country. Well, let me show you the last image. There was a country upon a time, about 50 years ago. They were the greatest of the socialistic countries, or Marxist communist countries. They had all the power, all the money. They went by the name of the USSR before they collapsed. They offered the free education. And unfortunately, just the educations alone didn't really help. It did collapse. There were breadlines, there was starvation. So a free education, even quality, doesn't mean that things are going to get fantastic, right? And of course, it's not fair of me to put up a picture of the children of the USSR in the 1950s and say that's going to be the American system, because it's not gonna be. But you can't make statements like you just did too and say, oh, it's going to be free and it's going to be high quality and it's going to be this and going to be that, like Bernie suggests. So anyway, there's my video. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. And comment away. And I love any of the negative stuff. That's great. And if you want to give me a thumbs down, that's fantastic too. At least the conversation is happening.